guys. So I'm really excited to be sharing this episode with you. My name's Hayley Morrison. This is Let's Talk Out Loud podcast, the Health Kick series. I'm getting down with a good life. So in this episode, I spoke to a delightful lady, Hannah Faye Sharples, who is an NLP hypnotherapist coach of over 15 years. In this episode, we covered what is hypnotherapy, how it actually works, who can benefit from it, what barriers actually hold people back from seeking professional help, tools to help when you're stuck in that fight, flight, or freeze response, and so much more. So Hannah was very, very kind to offer something for my listeners. So please relax, stay tuned. And of course, if you have any more questions for Hannah, please do get in touch. All of our information is in the description. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Thanks. I want to firstly start by saying thank you so much to Hannah for obviously joining and coming to have a chat with me. And like I said in my last podcast, we want to get right to the point, get all the juicy stuff out first. So I'm just going to hit you with a question, which is, what is hypnotherapy coaching?
Thanks, Hayley, and thanks for having me. And hypnotherapy is a therapy. Therapy is in there because a lot of people think it's, are you going to make me cluck like a chicken, or something like that. But it's therapeutic, and it is to enable me as a therapist to speak to the client's subconscious so that we can reprogram the subconscious, so that patterns that a client identifies, or together we identify as limiting for them, can be more easily removed from the subconscious. So through talking therapy, through coaching within a session, often we realize what's going on for the client. I will ask particular coaching questions, and I've been an NLP coach for 20 years now. I know you've got someone coming on who's going to talk about NLP.
That's okay.
I naturally blend it into my coaching. But then we utilize what's been said in the coaching part of the session to help create the hypnotherapy. So in hypnotherapy, you're going into a relaxation. Some people don't love to go into a deep relaxation. It's not their thing. And if somebody said, oh, that took too long, then we could do something a bit more snappy to get somebody into a relaxed state quickly. But I often find that there's this beautiful healing aspect by relaxing the whole body. 45 minutes of hypnotherapy is supposed to be equivalent of 4 hours. And often in modern society, we're so bombarded, aren't we, that we're on edge. We're wondering what's next, looking for that email, looking for that text, or expecting something. So we don't allow ourselves to wind down, to relax. So there's that healing aspect in itself. And then together with the client, I create a hypnoscript. I don't write it like a lot of hypnotherapists. It's almost like I channel the script. I might have some notes, and we reprogram the subconscious so that the client is buying into what they want. I'm not trying to do something different.
So just for people who are thinking subconscious mind, what is that? Like, without going too much into that and taking away from what you're doing, maybe explain the difference between the conscious and the subconscious mind. Just maybe a brief overview.
Well, when I'm going to go about that in a weird way, because I'm going to ask you, can you remember brushing your teeth this morning?
Yeah, I can't actually.
And I don't think that's because you didn't. I think that's because you went into autopilot.
I do that a lot.
So it's like when you learn to drive, first of all, you don't realize that you can't drive. You're unconsciously incompetent. Then you get in a car and you suddenly realize, oh, I can't drive. So you're consciously incompetent. Then you learn to drive and you're having to really think about, put the clutch down, put it into first, and the same for second. And so suddenly you're consciously competent. And then you've been driving a long time and you don't even think about changing gear, only apart from when you don't put the clutch down properly and there's a crunch or something. So then you are unconsciously competent. It's become, I'm gesturing here, but it's become part of your subconscious. It's become something you don't have to consciously think
So it's a
of.
bit like autopilot is probably another word that people
Exactly
kind of
that. Yeah,
resonate with, isn't it? You just habitually do things without thinking. Like I drove somewhere and went, how did I just get here?
Exactly
Because
that.
my subconscious has just took over.
Yep. Yeah.
So
I don't know if you've ever moved house. I remember moving house when I was young, and my dad was on autopilot and went to the old house, but we'd driven past the new road and I said, why are you going that way?
Yeah.
So that's why I always use the cleaning the teeth. But yeah, driving to work, often you say, can you remember that roundabout? And people think, well, I can't remember it, because you're listening to radio. So that's the subconscious that takes care and of us, allows us to breathe constantly, allows us to, but it's also when we're dreaming, it's the subconscious that is processing maybe what we haven't allowed the subconscious to process when we're consciously awake.
Yeah.
So we're getting in there and helping to support the changes that consciously we want to happen.
So what kind of people would you say kind of can benefit from, like, come to see you?
Yeah.
What kind of issues do people have, and what kind of people could you help?
Well, so I've been a hypnotherapist for 15 years. And I was using hypnotic language before that as an NLP practitioner, so coaching. So I've had people over the last 20 years come for all sorts of issues. But because of my own experience and what I've helped myself with, I often find there's that more authentic approach. And people feel more relaxed when they know that somebody may have gone through something. Now, that's not always what a lot of hypnotherapists say or coaches say. You know, they think, well, I can help you. But I think for the client, often if they feel that the person understands what they're going through, there's that authenticity. So in the end, often I work with people who have pain, because I've had regular pain, which I've been able to clear and handle better. Not always clear, you know, but get a better handle on. Thanks to hypnotherapy, and also more recently trauma spotting through source tapping, which I can come on to in a minute, and anxiety. So a lot of people come to me for anxiety and confidence, building themselves up. So
so would you say you're kind of like hijacking that subconscious and kind of like changing that belief system in there, kind
absolutely.
of like quick routing rather than just talking consciously? You kind of,
you're going in there. And if I said something to a client when they're in trance, when they're under, and they didn't like what I was saying, if they disagreed, if they would throw that out. But a story my trainer shared was they had somebody come for stop smoking, and then that person came back to that trainer for stop smoking, and he said, did it not work? And he said, well, actually I was every time you were saying cigarette, I was thinking, and it was quite hardcore drugs. So the hypnotherapist didn't know that that's what that client had come for. So that's how in control you are as a client, that you can utilize what's being said to you whilst you're under, you're still that much in control. So I think that's a really important thing, because people think, oh, am I going to have any control? And absolutely you have you have a lot of control.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things that I probably would have thought is, oh my God, a hypnotherapy. So I remember going, there was like a hypnotist on at an event. And
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I can't be hypnotized. And I think because of my belief system, I just, whatever happened, it didn't work. So I just got up. And since then, my belief is it won't work. But then I think there's a fear of losing control.
Yes.
Even though what you're describing isn't like you're turning someone into a thing where they can be a chicken. But I think that fear element is like, oh God, like, oh, I think it's a bit scary to think of doing it. So
Yeah.
it's good that you've kind of touched on that and say that you've still got
You've
like
got,
control through
yeah.
a session.
And it's really interesting that you talk about control, because thinking about the trauma spotting, so trauma spotting through source tapping is a somatic healing practice that I've added to my work in general. And I've kind of created my own method really now. So sometimes, yes, I'll just do straight hypnotherapy. Sometimes it's straight NLP coaching. But the thing with NLP coaching is it's a theory. Hang on, it's a theory, not a model. I'm trying to remember an NLP presupposition there. So it can change and diversify, and you can create new approaches. Trauma spotting through source tapping is somatic. It uses eye accessing cues so that we can find in the body stuck trauma. My point there was, when we have trauma stuck in our body, we do want to control. We do want to try as much as possible create some kind of control with whatever is seemingly chaotic in our life. We'll try our best to implement some kind of control. So it's a natural outcome if we've got some kind of trauma in our past. And I would say most people do. They might have trauma with a little t. So that could be when you were a child and you cried and your mum or whoever was caring for you didn't come. It can be that small, that first instance, that can be a case of feeling lost, feeling not cared for. So that's trauma with a small t. That's what it can look like. Trauma with a big T, the death of a parent, having to move schools, losing your friends, car accidents as a teen, lots of different things. So I'm blending trauma spotting with hypnotherapy, depending. And sometimes when I'm saying hypnotherapy there, it may be hypnotic language without the deep relaxation in the first instance, because we've found the stuck trauma in the body.
So do you know how you met? Because I definitely want to go deeper into the trauma element, but do you know how you just mentioned like somatic? Do you know if you want to maybe explain like what that is?
Yes. So it's a bit of a buzzword, and you'll see, I don't know, on Facebook, things like that. Somatic workouts to release stored trauma in the hips, or or yoga. So there's a lot about finding what's stuck in the body that the body remembers. There's a book that I can't remember the name of the author.
We'll think of it later and add it in.
Yeah, we could. The body holds the score.
Right.
And generally it's that the body remembers all sorts of trauma. And whilst I was going through initially learning trauma spotting, which I signed up because I'd had harassment and some other upset, so I was doing it for myself, but adding in a new layer of healing, because I think it's always good to update and know what's out there. What amazed me one day, my body, not from my conscious, not from my brain, but my body was doing this action. And I thought, what is this? What is my body remembering? What's it trying to release? Because often there'll be fight, flight, freeze, fawn. So your body might want to punch out. Your legs might run. You want to flight,
Yeah.
get the hell out of there. You might feel frozen, stuck. Fawn, when you're, yes, I can do that, when you really don't want to do that, you're pretending. So this action I was doing, my body had remembered me nearly dying as a 1-year-old and trying to take, whether it was the pain away from my stomach or whether it was the bandages. And the very peculiar thing was the person I was working with, who we were training, it happened to her son, so she knew.
Oh, wow.
It was very, yeah, it was quite amazing. So there is a spiritual element more to that, but it doesn't, because we're using a bit like Reiki, you're using source energy. That's why it's called source tapping. It's not EFT tapping, which I suspect you're going to cover as in another session, are you?
I don't know.
Emotion, that's emotional freedom technique. But when we say tapping within trauma spotting through source tapping, we're thinking about bringing energy in to help the person heal. So I'm guiding that person to find a trigger that they've had recently, find that in their body, because often we're still in the head, aren't we? We're going, they've just cut me up in the car. But not every time someone cuts you up in the car does it bother you. So there's particular reasons that are held in the body and the subconscious. You know, some people will say the subconscious and the body are one and the same.
Yeah.
So we would look at a recent trigger, so that then once we find that in the body, we can process it. Literally, that person might shake out. Often what happens is that person doesn't shake out. I'm doing it for them. So I look like a freak on the if we're doing it on the screen.
Yeah.
That's quite fair warning if anybody does work with me and I start
why she's shaking.
But over time, people get more comfortable in their body to allow whatever needs to come out, because I think we are all potentially a little bit frozen, a little bit stuck. We weren't allowed to run away when we wanted to run away as kids, you know, from a bully, from a teacher telling us off. We weren't allowed to punch out to a bully or a teacher when we were kids. We had to learn to behave, to sit still, to be good,
to hold it in.
hold it in, and then that's stuck in the body.
Do you know, that's a good point, what you were saying earlier on about the hypnotherapy added on, because people are really, really busy. So if you're not still, how can you identify, I guess, where that pain is physically like stuck in your body? Because I found that that's something that I struggled with, was being still enough for long enough to go, oh, I'm feeling this here. Oh, and obviously, I don't know whether you do anything with chakras, but at the time I was looking at chakras and thinking, well, which chakras blocked and what do I do? And so it's good. I think that the whole relaxation part is an element in that. So I like that.
Yeah, I mean, so somebody I'm working with at the moment, a session with that person may look like a discussion, which in itself clears a lot of stuck thoughts and has these moments of, aha, I hadn't put that, this and that together, just because I've been doing it so long, you know, there's a bit of magic there. And then we might do a current trigger around their work or business, family life, finding that in the body, which may only be fleeting for some people because they haven't been used to finding that in their body. And sometimes that's okay. It doesn't have to be, let's sit with this and really feel it. Some people need to sit and allow the body to shake out and feel. But I also try and add in what we call resourcing. Can you remember a time when you've dealt with a situation like this in the past? So there's a more positive feel and a reminder that you can cope, you can do this. But we would then also find find a time that the feeling we're feeling reminds us of from our childhood. And it's amazing because people say, oh, yeah, it feels like when I was 3 or I was 7. Oh, sometimes people will go for a memory, and that can help support them find the time. But eventually, within a few sessions, they really trust themselves.
Yeah.
And this is the wonderful outcome, that people feel more able to trust themselves, more intuitive, less likely to overthink, more able to know what their next step is for their life or their business, without all that chaos and overthinking and should I do this or shouldn't I do that?
So obviously you're seeing there the benefits of obviously releasing all of that and getting down to that trauma means that people can do that and probably slow down a little bit and give up a little bit of control.
Yes.
Because I think with control comes like disappointment as well, when you're in a situation that you can't control. And it can leave you feeling a little bit like useless, or because I definitely still have some of that as well. Even though I think mentally I don't, I know deep down I do. I don't try and control people. I like to know what I'm doing and what people expect from me, kind of thing. And when you don't, and you're not, nobody's clear, it's just an uneasy feeling, isn't it? It's not nice.
Yeah, if you don't know what's going on, that can then create a trigger in itself. That amygdala hijack the part of the brain that goes, there's a threat. So you could potentially then go into hypervigilance. Hypervigilance, that what's going on? Who's that? But more often, what's this on the phone? What's that? I must respond. I must. But yeah, I was personally stuck in hypervigilance, and I've had that happen a couple of times in the last 5 years. And utilizing some of those tools, some shadow work, the trauma work, to clear from the body, because after being mugged, I would be, what's that? Who's this?
Yeah.
And on tenterhooks. And I suspect that it was a lot of what I'd had in my childhood, because of trauma in my childhood, that it was exacerbated, that I felt it more strongly. Now I notice when there's a tendency for a part of me and that could be the conscious, the subconscious, the body, to want to go into that, and quickly can say, hang on, no, don't need to go there, don't need to overthink, I am safe.
Yeah. And that's good as well to tell people if they're ever in a situation where they're faced with a fight or freeze, to have some coping mechanisms maybe as well. I don't know if you even want to talk a little bit about that, about the 3
Really
different.
simple one, hand on the heart, add some deep breaths, grounding activity that is quite well known is 5 things I can see, 4 things I can feel. I think these are the right way around. You can play with it, and playing with it would be really useful. Feel your feet on the ground. I can feel my body in the chair. 3 things I can hear. 2 things I can smell.
Don't say taste.
Yeah.
What can I lick?
1 thing I can taste. Yeah. So that could be a simple grounding activity.
Yeah.
A diaphragmatical breath. If that doesn't create more a trauma response, because some people would change their breath and would potentially, it's very small minority, but it's useful to say, because somebody might go, oh, I'm going to do some deep breathing, that's going to ground me. And probably for 95% of the population, maybe maybe about that, that will work. But unfortunately, what a lot of people do when they do a deep breath is they breathe up here. And that's actually going to exacerbate the feelings of being out of control, being in hypervigilance, because when you're in hypervigilance, you're doing that shallow breath up here. So you want the belly to come out. You want the shoulders to stay down and relaxed. You want to slow down the breath somewhat. So, and then that grounding activity, if you can, get out and plant your feet on the grass. If it's not another rainy day like it is today, that would be an amazing grounding activity. And get out in nature. Sing, dance, play with the dog, play with the kids, all of those things that if you're feeling hemmed in your mind, feeling triggered, you probably wouldn't think to do those things.
Because you're in a panic state, aren't you?
Yeah.
So it probably takes time to practice.
So yeah, it might be that you have a go-to song or dance, or my dog's here, I might just think, right, play ball with him if I
See, it's weird as well, because some people they get a panic attack or an anxiety attack without knowing what the trigger is in that moment, which can be harder because they're thinking, why am I feeling this? Which can make them panic more. So when I get my panic attacks, claustrophobia, I know in my head what it is, and I try and say to myself, like, I'm safe, but the way I explain it is my body takes over, and I can't talk myself down. And then that control, because I haven't got control, that's scary, and then it can get a little bit worse. So it is a real thing, isn't it? And it's really nice.
And if you have, and it's there's lots to say there, but if you have a panic attack, some people may have a visual memory that's triggering it. Well, if you don't have a visual that's triggering it, what might be triggering it is the body remembering the feeling.
And that's what you said before.
Somatic. So when we clear out the layers of what's stuck in the body through the trauma spotting mainly, but we can bring in the hypnotherapy as well. It's like you're allowing, it's the layers of the onion analogy. You're freeing yourself, you're getting more to the core of you. If you were feeling you were having a panic attack, running on the spot to get that adrenaline out, to get that flight out, or punching a pillow or something. You don't even have to punch something, just allow the body to punch out. Those two, it's a bit like dealing with, say, perimenopausal symptoms. The body is going, something's wrong, I can't sleep, or really hot. And actually sometimes doing the punching out or running on the spot closes the trauma loop, and the body comes back to a resting state. Problem why we have stuck trauma in the body is we didn't get to close the trauma loop. We weren't allowed to run away. We weren't allowed to fight. We weren't allowed to come out of freeze naturally. Somebody didn't teach us to speak out. Instead, we learned we had to fawn. What was that?
Your printer just started printing.
Oh, it's a special message.
So I was trying to print out the questions before, which is why I'm like looking down. And it wasn't working. That was like over 40 minutes ago. It was just started printing. That's freaky, that. Oh my God, it's printing another one. So sorry that I interrupted you there. Is there anything that you can kind of share to give us an example of somebody that's came to you with an issue that you've either worked on or that you're working on, and the kind of steps that you're taking?
Yeah, so I know that some of the stuff you're sharing about carbs and looking at what's healthy, what is healthy, goodness, I mean, that's a whole topic, isn't it? And I've had people come because they may have diabetes and wanted to reduce their carbohydrate intake, and were able to do that, get a handle on it, change their diet, maybe not eliminate, but really reduce down. And one person, the most peculiar, it's not peculiar because we are holistic people, you know, we're a whole person. Along the way, part of that was that she was able to communicate more effectively with her husband and felt she was enough.
Was that through the hypnotherapy?
Yeah, so she came
treatment?
for one thing. She came to reduce down her carbohydrates, which we worked on. But of course, looking at the whole person, what may be getting in the way of that? Did she carve out enough time for herself as a mother, as a wife? Looking at her communication. So by the end of, say, 5 sessions, not only had she got a handle on her carbohydrates, she had also created a better relationship with her husband and felt about herself that she was enough. She was good enough.
Wow.
Because often most people's issue is, even if it's a subconscious niggle, I'm not good enough, or am I good enough?
Yeah,
So
that's great.
that was an amazing outcome. And just how, if we look at the person as a whole, how to help them with everything, because it's often not one thing, is it? That's somebody else who's come to me several times over the years, helping them with grief, loss of a loved one, and feeling confident in themselves to go about their life in a new way, whilst remembering the love of the person, remembering what that person would do for them in terms of care and support, and helping them remember that so that they could take that into themselves to move
Yeah.
forward.
Do you know, talking about like grief, because there's somebody I know that's like been struggling
Mm.
with grief. What would you say is the biggest like thing that people hold on to? Is it the fact of like, you're never going to see them again? Are they more sad for that person because that person's lost their life? Is it because of the habit of, you've seen that person every day and now you don't, you're uneasy? Like what? It's probably a little bit of everything, but is there anything that you kind of recognize by helping people dealing with grief that's similar, that's been the hardest to kind of help them deal with and accept?
I think that's a really interesting question, and as somebody who has lost, I think again this is maybe the authenticity bit. I've lost my close people, and knowing the grief cycle, having taught in mental health recovery college in Nottingham in the past about grief and learning the grief cycle, and that it's normal to feel angry, that you were expecting to maybe spend your life with that person or have that person around into old age, or there's denial that it has, putting it away, that it hasn't happened. So I think the thing with grief is people can get stuck in, I should feel this way or that way. Whereas actually a really healthy response is to allow whatever comes up, whether it's the sadness that you're not able to speak to them, or the sadness that you've lost what you expected to happen, them being around, the anger that they've been taken from you, the anger that they've had their life taken from them. Allow whatever is felt in the moment and not get stuck there.
Yeah.
Because I recognize that I got stuck in many of the stages, withdrawing, anger, denial. It takes a lot to get to acceptance. And even when you get to acceptance, it's okay to still miss that person. But again, through the method, often through the trauma spotting, releasing from the body, I have found, and some of my clients have found, that they can more easily have a healthy response to grief and not get stuck in one of the stages. If you get stuck in one of the stages, I think it's absolutely normal. So if anybody's watching and feeling they're stuck in a particular stage, be gentle with yourself, be kind, do something that means that you feel connected to who you are missing.
Yeah. And when you were saying the hypnotherapy stuff's good because I guess again it gives you that time to feel, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Relax
yeah.
and like you said, deal with whatever's coming up.
I think we're scared what might come up. We're scared that we might cry. You know, I can feel tears now.
I could see your eyes glazing there.
And it's you know, and sometimes I'll work with a client and I feel so strongly that what they're feeling, I have to, you know, I kind of put that out there in the first instance. I'm supporting you. I'm feeling you, what you're dealing with. And some people might say, well, that's not very professional. Well, then I'm putting boundaries there. This is maybe a more soft, gentle approach, and that it's not clinical. It's not
It's
you know,
human. It's
it's
human.
human.
A
Yeah.
human touch, just like
Yeah. Because for years I had psychotherapy and was thinking, am I saying the right thing? Is this what we're supposed to be, you know, and come out feeling like I'm been through the ringer, rather than feeling, oh, feel a weight off my shoulders. And I love it when a client says, oh my God, I feel so much better. I remember somebody coming for a face-to-face, full of upset after a breakup, shaking with anger and upset, really. And after the hypnotherapy was kind of just, oh my goodness, I feel like I'm back to myself, like something had been taken off them.
Yeah.
Coming back to themselves. I'm putting my hand on my heart, but it coming back to yourself, feeling centered, confident, relaxed, free of whatever's been.
Yeah. What would you say the block is for people that kind of haven't been to see somebody professional? Because there's a lot of people I speak to and I see, and I try and like just speak to them from me, but I mean, I'm not qualified. I have studied like counseling and other things, but I haven't got that well, I have got a counseling certificate, but I haven't got that main qualification to say I'm qualified to speak to you. I just, like you just said, speak from like my advice. But then I just see so many people going through different things, and I'm like, I want to help you, but it's like they're not taking that step to go and actually see somebody who can probably make like massive changes, like a big impact in their life. Like, what would you say the major barrier is for that? Is it finances? Is it because of they're scared, the fear element?
I think, yeah, it can be quite complex, and it could be, what if I change? What if I go and do this and then I won't have certain feelings anymore that you know, could be you're stuck. You've been stuck in your uncomfortable comfort zone. You know what you get. You're safe because it might be really crappy. You know, you might
But
feel
it's
really,
certain.
but you know what you get. Whereas if you go for it, I think some people are scared that I'm going to have to delve into feeling memories that I don't want to have to go back to. And sometimes that's the great thing with trauma spotting. You don't have to go discuss it all and open a whole can of worms.
Like relive it.
You don't have to relive it. It's about being safe. And actually you can have a moment to feel what's in the body, to release it from the body. Yeah, I think often people may block themselves from getting help because they know what they get, doing what they've always done. Maybe they don't value themselves enough to invest in themselves. We're all in a difficult, the cost of living crisis, making it something that I can offer that's affordable, and yet I've got 20 years of experience, and people, I'm aware of the word I'm going to use, if they want change, do need to be able to invest in themselves somewhat, so that they're saying, yeah, I'm doing this, I'm going for that, I'm backing myself.
Well, it's like that saying, you've got to look at what you're prepared to sacrifice, isn't it?
Yeah.
So everything comes to the sacrifice, like no pain, no gain, I guess.
Yeah.
So like, even if that's sacrificing your finances, or you have to like not spend as much money, or you have to work a little bit harder just to get this thing in your life that you know is going to like potentially change your life and make things better. Like, so I believe in that. I do.
Yeah. And I think there's something about when you choose to jump in and back yourself, you're already making change. You're already saying, yeah, I'm going for this. I deserve to feel better or different, and step forward and feel calmer, more centered, more confident.
No, definitely. So if anybody wanted to obviously come and work with you, do you offer like a free telephone consultation to find out what it is you need, to see if you can help? Is that something you do?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I do occasionally have free slots as well, so that people can experience trauma spotting. So if they're not, I don't have, it's not for every call, but I can offer people, if somebody said, I really would love to try trauma spotting, and so for your audience, I'm happy to offer that to your audience.
Yeah.
If
Oh, that's
they,
great. That's great. And what I'll do is I'll put on to say you've got to be in this group.
yeah,
And it's for a limited time, and I guess a limited number, because we don't want you being inundated.
yes, please.
And this is 2024, so if anybody watches this,
Yeah.
date.
Yes, and it's April, so I don't know, we'll say
We'll sort
July
some
or
deals.
something.
We'll sort some deals. That would be great.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you kind of want to share that maybe we've missed, or that you think people could know? And I'm sure, obviously you've got a website, and if anybody did want to have a chat
Yes.
with Hannah, they could just contact you anyway.
Absolutely. My website is hypnotherapymagicwithhannah.co.uk. And if you go on there, there's a pop-up and you can grab a free deep relaxation. So you can hear, you can experience my voice that can help you relax. And yes, you do need, I am capturing your name and email, but I don't email all the time. So you can go and grab that. And yes, if you'd like a free call to find out more about how we would work together, that's on the table. One thing I would say, when you're choosing a therapist, don't feel the need to jump in with the first person. Have a free call with me, find somebody that is recommended by a friend, see who you naturally click with. I'm not going to be for everybody, and other people's approaches aren't going to maybe be right for some of your watchers, listeners. So I think if you're choosing a therapist, if you're choosing to invest in yourself, this is the first step. Trusting yourself from a gut instinct point of view that that person's right for you. There's some really good salespeople out there. I'm not necessarily one of them. So have a bit of discernment about who you're going to work with.
Yeah, I love that. And it's a good point, because I've spoke to people who have said, I've been for therapy and it didn't work.
Yeah.
And I say that maybe it just wasn't the right person for you.
Yeah.
So that is a really good point. Well, That was great. So thank you so much once again, Hannah, for obviously coming on and taking the time to chat to me. I'm going to make sure that all of your links are in the description. So if anybody has any questions and wants to learn about more about what you do, they can obviously go and look at your website and just reach out and have a chat with you. So thank you once again.
Thank you, Hayley. Take care.
Bye.